Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you are looking to get the word out about your coaching business, or you want to get a job at a health coaching company, I've put together a free resource list of companies, apps, and directories that feature coaches or hire coaches. If you want to check it out, it's at haileyrowe.com/resource list, all one word, and hope it comes in handy.
Pulled in so many directions, or maybe even you're a business owner who has chronic health issues yourself. We're going to be talking about how do you juggle your health and business, because there's so many things we need to be doing all the time as business owners, and it can feel very overwhelming. So Laura, thank you for being here, and tell me about how did you get involved to wanting to help business owners stay healthy, be healthy in their business, that kind of thing.
Thank you so much for having me back, Hailey. It's such a great segue from where we last left off in our previous conversation on your platform about healthy marketing practices that don't drain you. And since then, we've just gotten even more solid in our coaching process, working with clients directly who quite literally were maxed out on production and were at quitting phase because they just were like, what else is possible in business besides what I'm doing currently, which is I'm over-serving, over-delivering, and I'm not feeling this return. Maybe not just financially, but just energy-wise. The work is just literally draining them, and they're not feeling love for their businesses anymore. And that's where I'm so helpful in being able to step in, because I've previously burned out in my business, realizing that there were other ways and other models to do business within.
I love that. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what do you think is burning health coaches and people who are in that field out the most, and how do they start to combat that? I know one is their clients might be draining them. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like me and like a lot of other practitioners, we got into our service modality and we have our specializations and our clinical expertise, but we don't have that backing in that knowledge in business creation. But I think also fundamentally, we just don't understand time and energy management on that particular end. And it's hard for us to be serving with our whole hearts and our whole minds the way that we want to. And we want to have a meaningful impact, but we also have struggle with those energy needs and taking care of ourselves. And so I created a holistic solution called Everyday Holistic. And that's it's grounded in Blue Zone research to support us to find the creativity, the flow, and the flex in our routines while we're fulfilling specifically health fulfillment.
All right. So tell me more about what does that look like?
Sure, absolutely. It's focusing on finding some stillness, and it's finding reflection and building those patterns in our day and weekly lives, and also creating holistic management tools within our lifestyles to ensure that we're getting our basic health needs met, that we are looking at things like our supplements, looking at our foods, and finding some joy and a lot of health, as we are learning, is not just what we're taking into our bodies, it's how we're taking care of our minds and our souls. So it's also some spiritual work and some grounding work in that reality and that vision work, which so many people skip out on when they're creating businesses. If I could do anything over, it would be two things. One, it would be going and really talking to my customers in a different way, learning more about them initially and creating the brand around them. And two, really focusing a long time on that vision work. What is the impact I want to feel and experience with my business? And what impact do I want to create in my industry? Because that will steer us away from copy and paste and commodity, and really truly step into a service that can create meaningful impact beyond just our locality.
Yeah. And I think that burnout to me is not just about what you're doing or how much you're doing, because you could have two people and one is energized and excited and passionate, and they may look on the outside busy. And then another person might be doing all the things, but it's exhausting and every step is draining and they hate the process and they're dreading it and they're very burnt out as a result. And I think that it comes a lot from our thoughts and thinking either forgetting the mission, like you said, or not having a clear vision for ourselves. So we just feel like why are we doing this? Why bother, right? And that creates the burnout. But then I've seen other people who have that strong mission and vision, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I wake up every day excited because I have to get this word out and I have this impact I want to make. And it feels like I get to do this instead of I have to do this, right? So tell me a little bit about, when somebody is trying to get into that mode of like, I get to do this instead of I have to do this. What are some shifts they could maybe make in their day? How can they do it in a way that they don't burn out? Like you mentioned before this podcast, like taking breaks and like, how do we do that without guilt and while, still living our mission?
Definitely. Well, I think that a business owner who's in that circumstance should definitely prioritize mindset coaching and some supportive conversation around mindset specifically, and that reframing of what their daily activities are intending to do per the vision that they're trying to create and execute upon. It might take some simplifying, some moving back, and being able to objectively look at what they're currently doing in their business and what those things are leading them to. So that input-output exercises that are so powerful so that they can know exactly what they're actually accomplishing. I think I see business owners quite a bit who are just in that mode of doing, and they're like, see, this is the problem. There's always something else that comes from this. There's always consequences of each action. How do I scale back and slow down and be able to see which things I actually have to do? Is that possible? So looking at that schedule and finding that time to reflect accurately on what you're currently doing in business and which things have the best and most meaningful results.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, have there ever been any, burnout mindset thoughts you had that were really draining you that you were able to shift? And how did you shift them?
So my burnout was a totally physical response. It actually was a truly an autoimmune disorder diagnosis, and it had a huge medical implication and a really long stagnant period in my life. I was having panic attacks pretty much daily. So I was having some serious medical consequences due to a lot of different factors, emotional things, physical things that were happening in my family at the time. And so burnout is an actual has physical characteristics. And for me, the Everyday Holistic System is a daily system that I had to create as a way to be able to navigate myself back to productivity and back to the necessary stability to run business and to run my life and career, honestly. And what really pulled me out of it was being able to actually work a full-time job while then creating some space to start again, essentially, and change my schedule and change how I approached business and commerce and interactions. I even went through a period of a time where selling was just too exhausting. I physically and emotionally could not muster conversations that ended and resulted in sales. So when I say I had burnout, it was seriously a huge shift in my personal life. And one of the things that I created within Everyday Holistic System was regimens of self-awareness. How am I feeling today? What is actually happening in my body? Am I feeling stimulated? What is going on a sensory level? So that I'm then being able to create my daily agenda per how I'm actually feeling in the moment and what I'd like to accomplish, instead of just pushing through, because that was my prior go-to. Push through.
Yeah.
And you could look at the acutely. I'm feeling fine right now. I think I don't need to eat that, instead of the long-term energy threshold, which is so necessary for health and for wealth, right? Like just that ability to see in the long term.
For sure. Yeah. So there's definitely physical burnout. And I think a lot of people hit that point, and it's kind of like a wake up call. And what you're saying is, if you can get aware before that rock bottom and start to learn, like, this stimulates me, or this environment, I want to make some shifts in my environment and in my day, you can maybe prevent that and be able to continue to have a sustainable business instead of having that burnout point. What would you say to entrepreneurs who maybe feel like they're approaching, like maybe they haven't completely hit burnout, but they can tell they're approaching it, but they're afraid to step back because maybe they're in a momentum cycle, or maybe they have like almost like a scarcity mindset, like, oh, if I don't, if I don't take advantage of this opportunity now, XYZ will happen, or I'll miss out. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, the shift that they feel they need to take is real, and they should be brave and face that decision, because ultimately you could be losing a lot more than just some money or some growth if you don't take care of your health. Like, it literally can stop so much of that functioning. And it can be really hard to like really pull yourself off that action train, but it doesn't take that long to build and develop the skills to just shift a different way into a more sustainable direction. And it's going to feel more aligned. That's why I think the diagnosis for so many of those business owners is the vision work. A lot of times they just don't realize that they need to take some more time on really aligning their business with their actual goals. Usually a lot of times those business owners haven't actually created accurate goals. They've just have an ideal and no action plan. So starting there and working on coping, how are you really coping with these feelings that are coming up? Because those feelings can have physical results if we don't figure out how to regulate your nervous system properly, which it doesn't take that long to learn. There's really easy breathing exercises. I recommend the book Breath or Breathe. It's just excellent way to start with some box breathing to be able to, again, find that flow and that creativity just through the moment and release any tension around what you're feeling, because that tension can build up in you and create some serious nervous system dysregulation. And that creates your body flipping over to sympathetic nervous system response. And then you're full blown, going in an unhealthy direction on the long term. Really weak adrenals, just really a lack of support over your body as a whole. And in my case, it did actually turn to autoimmune dysfunction, which I've since then reversed and been able to heal, which is kind of amazing. And I have to be careful, but it's something that, people actually, the more we learn about, there's a lot of unhealthy people in business. So I'm there for that conversation. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something to be proactive about, that we can be the greatest models of care. And when we do that, we're going to have healthier patients and clients as a result.
Totally. Yeah. And really realizing it's not one or the other. Your health actually impacts how you perform in business and will get you better results in business with less effort, because you're coming at it with full focus, with full energy. And the fact that you were able to, obviously, disclaimer on the show, we don't give medical advice, and this is not, medical advice, but the fact that you were able to have that transformation is really impressive. And a lot of people may, feel like it's too late for them and kind of have lost hope, but you're living proof that actually, no, you can make changes and you can reap the rewards of that. So what would you say to someone who maybe feels like it is too late, or I've lived my whole life with unhealthy habits? How am I going to change now when I have all these responsibilities? What would you say to them?
Your body keeps the score, but it's actually quite malleable. And you're able to change your direction, change habits actually quite quickly. I think as little as 30 days, with just a couple specific procedures in place that build health reflection accurately, help you look at your health inventory correctly and make sure that what you're taking in your body is healthy, and to examine and create that nervous system support procedures right away. Again, I'm not just about what we're taking in diagnostics. I'm actually more about routines and habits.
I agree. Yeah, your habits really make who you are, and we are what we repeatedly do instead of, just what we do every once in a while. So what have been some of your favorite, I know you mentioned box breathing and breathing techniques, but do you have any other favorite ways that you like to regulate your nervous system?
Yes, so I have this one procedure that's in my program that is so helpful because it's just like a step-by-step holistic ritual, actually, that helps to create a space in your home for intentional getting to know yourself, journaling. It's fun, it's creative, and it incorporates aspects of you. So it's a space that you intentionally create in your home. It takes a few minutes to set up, and then you're going there only when you need to based on the criteria we set. And then we also have a great little holistic lifestyle workspace regimen as well. And that's another space in your home or office, or if you have no space and you have space issues, it could be done in a little box or a drawer. I've had people do it like in their cubicles at work. And just try to think of like a space where you release and have a space where it's just designed for you. It's creating like a little mental map, a little visual map of ways to return to yourself. I will have to say I had to use it a lot in my full-time career that I stepped back into for the last 3 years, which, by the way, Hailey, I exited 2 weeks ago.
Because congratulations.
Thank you, because I got offered a really amazing wellness brand. I'm going to help grow 2 really awesome local wellness brands here in Richmond, Virginia. And it's like a dream job. Take me off cloud 9. I'm having a great time. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, fully left the full-time career. But even within that, we have to constantly be doing things. Not always constantly, but there are moments in our life, right? And definitely in my life where my energy resisted what I was doing, right? I knew for the whole time, this is not what I'm going to be doing, but I need to do it now because of point blank. It needed to fulfill something. And we know at that point, we identify, you know what? The healing has been done. That part's been healed. I no longer need to do this anymore. And we need to have that story in our heads at all times of the longer vision of ourselves and what we're trying to do. Because this is no longer fitting. It does not fit me, but it helped me with this. So much of the wellness trajectory that's been out there for so long is this very either or, like you said, kind of opposition. You're either all in or you're not. But the truth is that we always have to have other life choices and challenges come up that we have to navigate in a holistic way. And that's what we're trying to propose and doing.
Yeah, I love that. And one question that came up when you were talking is, I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs who are trying to build their business while working a full-time job, and they hate their day job. They feel so much resistance towards it. It gives them physical stress and, emotional stress because they don't feel it's aligned with them or something like that, but they have to pay their bills. And so any tips for someone going through that? Like, how did you navigate that when you had that resistance come up?
I mean, we're entering a new world, right? Where we are literally seeing people who are creating side incomes and are creating entrepreneurial lifestyles, and they don't have to do the work, right? Or they have to do different work or different output, or they have better control. So the model of not having control over our destiny in work is basically transitioning out. That's why companies are becoming so much more competitive with how they're able to create ecosystems and cultures for their employees. And, when you are an employee, so that performance aspect, all the time that there are other things that you can be doing, other things you should be doing, and you have to accept like where you're at for what it is. And I always knew in the back of my mind, okay, because in the last 120 days of my company, I made, $13,000 with 4 clients, and it was like a $300 client acquisition costs, and it was 10 hours of work total. I would have had to work 22 weeks in my day job to make that same amount. And so we're in a world now where we can create these kind of contrasts in our minds, but yet the job does create security on a lot of other aspects. There's other reasons to have a job besides just the income. There's a balancing that can happen in that prioritization and understanding that you yourself have a vision of your life, you know where you're going, and it's just one piece of the entire entity. You don't have to discard it. Yeah. It's just something that can be included in your identity and make peace with it, because there are things to learn in that journey as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And if you can learn to be like accepting of where you are right now in that current job, when you have times in your business where you're having growing pains, or there's a new ceiling to break, or you always think the grass is greener because so-and-so's doing it this way and you're not doing it that way, like you're going to be more equipped for that kind of stuff. So yeah. I totally agree with you that it is a part of the bigger picture. And what you said about, creating less, like having a peaceful mind about it. And maybe it's something like, yeah, I don't love this. I don't want to be doing this forever. But, and you're kind of giving the and picture, like, and it is my stability right now, and I'm okay with that, and that's what I want, and I'm choosing that. And so often I think we think, oh, I'm a victim to this job, but you are choosing to do the job and stay in the job. So you might as well line up with that, for the time being. So, So where can people, connect with you, learn more about your methodology, all the good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel our website has gotten pretty clear and helpful in that direction. So that's just laurasbotanicals.com. And there are a couple different, ways to opt in within the website, different opportunities to learn deeper. We have an event called Become a Resilient Business. And that's a bit of a newer framework we're going towards, a membership. And we also have an opportunity to do referral partnerships with like-minded practitioners who want to create that soundboard of holistic talk and go deeper than anybody can get through an AI-generated health article. Although AI has been pretty helpful for some of my clients. I just spoke to someone yesterday who's able to decipher between supplements based on AI. It's pretty smart. So we're there for that conversation too, but we also want to have humans who are bouncing off each other and supporting one another for that deeper context of a conversation instead of just expertise and credentials, which is, I think it's just fading out, honestly, Hailey. I mean, the coaching story is so impactful. I've spoken to so many practitioners who went that route and now want to do coaching because they had themselves have something burning inside of them, a life story, a pain point they had to go through themselves that they now really want to focus on. And I'm there for that journey because, and myself, I know that there's certain things I would never talk about. I can never really talk about classic TV with anyone for any length, but my soon-to-be husband could. I mean, he loves it. He grew up on it. But if you want to talk about plants, now that excites me. We can talk about that all day, every day. And business, I think it's a very great world we're in where we can actually rely on everybody for and give portals and perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a lot of power in community. Check out Laura's and her website and all the good stuff. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much, Hailey. It's so great to see you. And thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, you too. All right. Talk to you soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.